India is carrying out a massive rescue op in Ukraine and adjoining countries. Nearly 20,000 Indian nationals were stranded in Ukraine ever since the Russian invasion began. India named the evacuation exercise Operation Ganga, under which Indian nationals from Ukraine are being sent to nearby countries like Romania, Poland, Hungary, from where they are being brought back to India in special Air India flights. Indian nationals are not the only ones stuck in Ukraine. There are scores of people from other countries like the UK, US, China who couldn't get out of Ukraine on time. Hello and namaste, I am Richa Dwivedi, and on NIJ Scoop today, let's take a look at the response of various countries to evacuation of its nationals from the war zone. China has about 6,000 nationals stranded in Ukraine. On 24th February, China announced chartered flights for its nationals stranded in Ukraine and requested its citizens leaving Kyiv to display signs of identification such as the Chinese flag. On February 26, the Chinese embassy urged its citizens to refrain from displaying signs of identification, just days after telling those to clearly fix a Chinese flag to their vehicles. A day later, on 27 Feb, Chinese ambassador to Ukraine released this message. China's envoy stated that the prevailing conditions were too unsafe to evacuate citizens. The ambassador dispelled rumors that he had left Kyiv and reassured Chinese nationals left stranded in the war-torn country. The ambassador urged Chinese citizens to not quarrel with locals after a number of unverified social media claims of rising hostility towards Chinese citizens began surfacing. Now the Chinese have postponed their evacuation plans. India's Operation Ganga is proceeding. China has issued no travel advisories and no support mechanisms, while India has released contact numbers, advisories, and support mechanisms. Chinese nationals are being attacked in Ukraine, while the buses with the Indian flag are being given safe passage. Let's take a look at how the US has responded to evacuation of its citizens in Ukraine. On 22nd February, the US Embassy released an online form. Local and international phone numbers for communication. US encouraged its citizens to enroll in the STEP enrollment for security updates and easy communication in an emergency. The US released list of border crossings and phone numbers of embassy people at the various borders and specific locations where the US citizens can cross. However, by 27 February, there was a change in plans. The US explicitly stated that the US government will not be able to evacuate US citizens from Ukraine. The latest advisory urges US citizens in Ukraine to depart now using privately available transportation options if it is safe to do so. US has stated that it will not be able to evacuate US citizens. Indian Operation Ganga is continuing with full efforts from the government of India. Even the US citizens are having long waiting times at the Ukrainian border for evacuation through other neighboring countries. At certain points, the US has asked its citizens to even carry food and other items for 2 days at the Ukrainian border. The waiting situation is similar for India. Both India and the US have issued similar advisories for its stranded citizens. Both India and the US have released several phone numbers for assistance. An online form too has been released. Moving on to the UK, first advisory was issued on 17th February. The UK government has stated that Russia's military action in Ukraine will severely affect the British government's ability to provide consular assistance in Ukraine. British nationals should not expect increased consular support or help with evacuating in these circumstances. Contact numbers of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office have been released for assistance of its nationals stranded in Ukraine. The British Embassy office in Kyiv has temporarily relocated. Embassy staff are operating from the British Embassy office in Lviv. The in-person consular services that British Embassy office in Lviv can provide are extremely limited and may be further affected by Russian military action. The British government has also categorically mentioned that British nationals should not expect increased consular support or help with evacuating in these circumstances. Britain has clarified that it will not be able to provide increased support to its citizens stranded in Ukraine. On the other hand, the government of India has increased support on a war footing. British Embassy has relocated while Indian Embassy in Kyiv is still functioning. Britain has asked its nationals to follow the advice of Ukrainian authorities with no additional assistance. An online form has been released. Next on the list is Germany. The German government released an advisory on 12th February stating German nationals are urgently requested to leave the country and evacuation by German authorities is currently not possible. A crisis hotline of the Federal Foreign Office was released. A crisis prevention list too has been released to help German nationals in Ukraine. However, the German embassy in Kyiv is temporarily closed. We'd like to mention here again that the Indian embassy in Ukraine is still functional and all the possible assistance is being provided. Now let's talk about Egypt. The head of the Egyptian community in Ukraine, Ali Farouk, stated last week that authorities in Ukraine and the Egyptian embassy were coordinating the return of Egyptian students. Egyptian students stranded in Ukraine have been calling on the embassy to help them evacuate, while some students took matter into their own hands and crossed the border into Poland, hoping to make it back home. In case of Morocco, Morocco's embassy continues to closely monitor the evacuation process. The embassy has instructed Moroccans in Ukraine to head for the closest land crossing points joining Ukraine and Poland, Romania, Slovakia or Hungary. Morocco's embassy has provided Moroccans with free toll phone numbers to aid the evacuation process. Many Moroccans are currently moving towards crossing points between Ukraine, Poland, Slovakia, Romania and Hungary on their own. Talking about Nigeria, the Nigerian government said that it had received with surprise reports of the Russian invasion and that once airports are open, it would assist people. The students from Nigeria stranded in Ukraine told the media that they felt the message they were largely receiving from the government translated to the fact that they were on their own. According to the data from Ukraine's Ministry of Education and Science, 80,000 international students study in Ukraine. The largest number comes from India, followed by Morocco, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan and Nigeria. If we look at India's Operation Ganga, it has so far been the most active amongst all the nations that have citizens stranded in Ukraine. Indian officials are monitoring the situation closely and providing all possible assistance to Indians stuck in Ukraine. Several advisories were issued by India urging its nationals to evacuate before the war broke out, though many students chose to remain in the country and eventually got stuck in the conflict zone. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, over calls with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, mentioned that the safety of Indian nationals is a top priority for the Indian government. Under Operation Ganga, the government is ensuring every Indian national makes it back to India safely. Let us know in the comments below if you found this video insightful. Until next time, this is Richa Dwivedi signing off. Dhanyavad and Namaste.